Welcome to the RSI Trade of the Day. My name is Benjamin Poole, head trader here at Verified Investing. And today I've got a lot of action for you guys. I'm going to go over the trade of the day. I'm going to go over Bitcoin chart, the Apple chart. I'm going to go over briefly UNH as well, because I think it's a good example of how the relative strength index works and what you guys should be looking for. And then ultimately I have your trade of the day, which will be on ANET. And then I have a bonus for you guys. I've talked about this a lot. I didn't want to throw this in there, but OKLO, this has been a wild and crazy stock as far as the relative strength index. Again, it stayed above the 30 on the relative strength index, staying at the 70 or below, above the 30, but at the 70, but still above the 30. And so for me, this gives an opportunity for us to possibly play this as a bonus trade in addition to ANET. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into the RSI recap. So I'm going to show you the chart of Nvidia. So Nvidia, I had mentioned the RSI stayed above 70 yesterday, or excuse me, the day before yesterday. And so the trade of the day was going to be a movement above all the way to the recent top. Let me go ahead and reset this. So 183.30 was going to be the entry level on Nvidia for a possible short, based on the fact that the relative strength index had stayed really, really strong. So I was anticipating a further move to the upside. What I had mentioned is you did have some decent price action in the day. It was up 3.5%. And I said, all right, well, I'm watching this upsloping trend line. If it breaks, then you got potential downside. And then look at what happened to Nvidia. Although it did not get up to our $183.30, we were about $2 away from that. And so unfortunately, you can't necessarily predict exactly how high the stock is going to go on the back of the relative strength index staying higher. However, you can kind of predict that it's going to have a rollover. And that's exactly what happened. Just like the relative strength index was indicating, you had this nice fall of this upsloping trend line. And then look at this catastrophic fall. Got a nice waterfall, $5 almost a 3% pullback in Nvidia. So unfortunately, again, it didn't play out, but it was still a nice rollover. AEO we went over as well, and I just want to kind of briefly mention this. Same thing, strong relative strength index throughout the day, good price movement, and then all of a sudden it never got up to 1472, which is where I was saying is your gap fill. And then look at this sell-off, you guys. This is the power of the relative strength index. This gives you an idea, and this is an intraday play, right? So this is what I've noticed on the 1 minute relative strength index. If it stays pretty strong, price action continues to float throughout the rest of the day, and it never dips below the 30. That is a great opportunity for either you to stay in a swing trade long, a day trade long, or to enter it and wait for a significant pullback. And AEO and Nvidia were good examples of how that works. Okay, so now let's go ahead and go into UNH. UNH has this nice cascade waterfall effect right here. And look what happened to the relative strength index. This is giving you a positive relative strength index, or RSI, excuse me. This was down to 1240, $11 or 11 on the relative strength index. And now you have a lower low and then a higher low on the RSI. And so if you guys are interested in getting into UNH, I was anticipating a downside move to $229.49 because that's where significant support's at. So if you zoom out, you've got this nice gap fill right here. However, it didn't ever hit that level. But look at this. The relative strength index was telling us that now we're oversold. Had this nice down move, oversold below 30. This is a great entry point. And the reason this would be a great entry point, you guys, isn't because it's a guaranteed winner, because it could have gone down lower. It's a good entry price because of the fact that you do have additional support level. And if you're doing this for a swing trade, then your opportunity is to enter at a Pierce of 30, especially when you're getting this good price action and relative strength index action on the charts. But just knowing that you could have to dollar cost average into it, that's why we start with a smaller position. But I anticipate this being kind of the temporary lows on UNH, and we can actually go quite a bit higher on UNH now. All right, so now let's go ahead and go into Bitcoin. Bitcoin has been a stronger stock. So when I look at stronger stocks, I look at the price movement and the relative strength index movement. And it got below 40. And look at this. It hit this nice upsloping trend line. So this provides a good buying opportunity on Bitcoin based on the fact that you're into this double top, retrace the scene of the crime. You got this upsloping trend line. Now, here's what I'm noticing though. On the relative strength index, now we're below the 40. We try to get back above the 50. If we fail to get above the 50, this could be going down to the 30. And so if it does head towards the 30, we're going to identify specific levels for you to possibly swing trade long Bitcoin. So this is an upsloping trend line. If it breaks that and it recaptures below this pivot high, which was the previous all-time high, then you're looking at $106. If it gets down to 30, when the RSI gets down to 106 or $105,000, this would be a great buying opportunity, especially when you've got something as bullish as Bitcoin. I know I've got a lot of lines in the charts, but that would be my downside target for an entry long into Bitcoin. And then what you would do is you would just possibly look for a move back up to the 50, see how price consolidation is happening. And then you could even look for a move back up to 119, 120. I think it's all going to depend on what happens with the stock market. And so that's why it's still tentative. But again, that's my downside target. Okay, so let's look at Apple. Apple's similar, right? You got this nice bull flag. You got this sideways consolidation above a nice down move, and then a nice pop. Sideways consolidation gives you an idea that this is still a strong stock. And so if it drops below the 30, even though it isn't at all-time lows, it isn't given as positive RSI divergence, then that's where you would enter it for a long, especially if you can get it down below 200, maybe $195. You got to have a lot of support in this area, just knowing that it would be short-term oversold, and that provides us an opportunity for a potential bounce. So again, look for around $195 when the RSI pierces the 30 on the downside. What I like to do is I like to wait for the daily close, and if it's a red bar candle into support and the RSI is at 30, that's a good buying opportunity. So that's the cool thing, is you don't have to go intraday and try to time this thing. You want to wait for that red bar close, because that's continuation of the move down. And usually that's the end of a down move, and that's when you can get the pop. All right, now let's go into our trade of the day. All right, so the trade of the day for me is going to be ANET. So ANET had earnings, and normally I like to give trades based on the relative strength index intraday. And I'm going to go over OKLO for that. But ANET popped to 135. And if we go to the intraday extended trading hours, it's trading at $133. Well, this is a strong stock on the day, and it's got this beautiful hidden parallel channel. So you've got this basically this upsloping trend line that's been support, and then it was resistance. So when it gets back above this right here, going to the upper end, $145.18. Rounding error, you could start at $144.50, but $145.18 is my upside movement on ANET before a pullback. This would be a pretty significant move to the upside. If you notice, that'll be about a 22% move. Usually you don't have stocks that move too much higher than that, especially if you notice the RSI on this thing. The RSI is above the 30, above the 70. And so if it closes above there on a daily closing basis, then it should recapture the recent high on the relative strength index. So this gives a good opportunity for even possibly a swing short for 5 to 10% on the move to the downside. All right, now let's go over OKLO. Again, I've been talking about this a lot lately because this thing has been strong. Look at the relative strength index. This is intraday yesterday. So you had this good price movement up, negative RSI divergence. This is actually where I entered the short yesterday, took about $3,300 on this thing. I ended up getting out a little sooner than I could have. I was waiting for an $80 Pierce, but it never happened. But look at what happened. You've got this nice movement up on the relative strength index back above 70, but you notice it never gets below 30. So today, I am actually going to be looking for this in the live day trading room to short this. Because it got to 185, I am anticipating a move above that. And so for me, I would start an entry on a day trading basis at $87.50. This would be my upside target move, and it could go up to up to $90. So just kind of know that we would have to navigate this trade if it decides that it wants to head up to $90. However, based on the previous RSI action in this one and everything else that I've really observed, this is due for a pop in the intraday, and then due for a pullback. So I would be looking for about a 3 to 5% pullback. If we can hit that $90 level, it's going to pull back 3 to 5%. At least that's what the charts are telling me. So that's what I have for you guys. Thank you guys so much for being here with me live at 8:45 before the market opens. Please hit like, subscribe, and ring that bell so you can get notifications every day at 8:45 when we are live. And please stay tuned. Gareth Soloway is going to go over the game plan in just about 4 minutes. So we'll see you guys next time in the charts. You guys take care.